Before the first flush of dawn painted the horizon, the Kalahari Plains lay parched under an unrelenting sun. Dust devils spiraled across the cracked earth, skirting brittle tufts of grass that trembled in the dry wind. Scattered acacia and mopane trees stood like sentinels, their skeletal branches offering scant shade. Here, in this furnace of ochre and gold, water was more precious than ivory, and more elusive than mirages dancing on the horizon. At the head of a weary herd, Matriarch Nalia paused atop a wind-scoured dune, her massive silhouette outlined against the pale eastern sky. Her wise, amber eyes scanned the empty expanse. Each elephant behind her, mothers, aunts, and calves, looked to her for guidance, trusting her decades of memory to unlock the desert's secrets. Nalia's own limbs ached with the march, but within her mind burned the map of salt licks and secret springs she had learned as a calf. The fossilized riverbed veined with mineral crusts, the hollow beneath the thunderstruck baobab, where water pooled after rare storms, the ring of petrified driftwood concealing boreholes ancient humans had abandoned. With a low, resonant trumpet, Nalia signaled the herd to move. Her deep call rolled across the dunes, a promise of life beyond the wasteland. The matriarch led them down the leeward slope, each ponderous step imprinting a guiding track in the sand. Calves followed close to her flank, trunks entwined for comfort, while bulls brought up the rear, their ears flicking away the biting wind. As the sun rose, slanting its first rays in molten promise, Nalia descended into the valley below. Her keen eyes fixed on the pale glimmer of the ancient salt bed, it lay half buried beneath wind-blown sand, a crescent of gleaming crystals that would sustain her family through the desert's relentless thirst. In that moment, each footstep carried the weight of survival, and Nalia's unwavering resolve became the herd's lifeline across the unforgiving sands. Nalia's great ears twitched as the herd followed her down the dune's leeward side, where the wind had scoured away loose sand to reveal an expanse of pale, crystalline rock. She paused at the crest of a shallow depression, once a hidden river channel, its floor thickly encrusted with mineral salts, left behind by a long-vanished stream. These gleaming crystals, tinted faintly pink by iron oxides, sparkled like a treasure trove beneath the rising sun. Trunk raised high, Nalia inhaled deeply. The air carried the sharp, sweet tang of sodium chloride, mingled with earthy notes of drying grass. Satisfied, she let out a low rumble, a signal her family understood at once. This was their lifeline. One by one, the elephants approached, trunks extended in respectful salutation. Mothers dipped their soft fingertips into the salt, drawing it to parched mouths. Calves pressed eager faces to the stones, licking the crystals with small, hopeful gulps. As the herd feasted, Nalia moved among them, using her tusks to pry up heavier slabs for the younger bulls. Each slab exposed fresh veins of salt beneath, ensuring the entire herd could partake. Waterholes miles away might hold scarce drops, but here was an oasis of minerals to replenish lost electrolytes and stimulate thirst for the rare desert pools to come. While the herd grazed, Nalia stood sentinel at the salt bed's edge, eyes scanning the heat-hazed horizon. In the distance, dust plumes marked a clan of zebra migrating toward greener pastures. Vultures wheeled overhead, waiting for the day's hunt. Yet none dared approach the sacred lick while the matriarch stood guard. Nalia's silhouette, mighty and unbowed, conveyed both invitation and warning, a promise of sustenance for her family and a barrier to marauders. When every elephant had their fill, calves' bellies rounded with nourishment, Nalia trumpeted once more. With bellies primed by salt, the herd advanced toward the next waypoint, a cluster of wind-petrified logs that bore faint signs of ancient boreholes. Nalia's mind hummed with the route ahead, each landmark guiding them through the desert's labyrinth. As the herd set off, following the matriarch's steady stride, they left behind the glittering salt lick, its secret known only to those wise enough to remember the map, written in footprints and crystal, on the thirsty plains. With renewed vigor, the herd pressed onward beneath the scorching mid-morning sun. following Nalia's heavy footprints that pressed deep into the warming sands. The matriarch led them toward the next secret waypoint, a ring of ancient driftwood, its once smooth trunks turned to stone by centuries of mineral-rich water flow. From afar, the driftwood appeared as a circle of ghostly gray stumps half buried in the dunes, their petrified surfaces glinting in the harsh light. As the herd approached, calves paused to nuzzle the stone trees, curious at how something so solid could once have been supple wood. Nalia stood before the circle, toes brushing chipped fragments of fossilized bark. She trumpeted softly, her signal that the hidden spring lay just beyond. Pushing aside the sand and broken wood, she exposed an area of damp, dark soil, scented faintly of moss and life. Year after year, rainwater had seeped through cracks in these logs, depositing moisture in a shallow basin beneath. Though the surface was parched, Nalia knew that just beneath lay a pocket of fresh, cool water. With her tusk, she gouged a small trench through the sand, revealing trickles of clear liquid that pooled between the stone trunks. Immediately, the herd gathered, trunks plunging into the spring with grateful relief. Mothers slurped deeply, calves drank with trembling eagerness, and even the young bulls paused their protective watch to lap at the water's edge. As the elephants replenished their stores, vultures circled far overhead, and a lone jackal hesitated at the dune's lip, drawn by the promise of moisture, but wary of the matriarch's watchful gaze. Nalia remained alert, eyes scanning every crevice for danger, ears attuned to the distant rumble of shifting sands. When the last of the herd had drunk their fill, she let out a deep, reverberating trumpet, a signal that their path lay on, toward the final landmark, the ancient baobab, whose hollow roots concealed the river's long-forgotten veins. With bellies quenched by salt and water both, the elephants set off once more, their steps steady and sure. Each footprint marked the map they followed, a living chart across desperate plains, guided by a matriarch whose memory and resolve bound her family's fate to the desert's hidden lifelines. As the herd's rhythmic stride carried them beyond the petrified ring, the sun soared to its zenith, turning the dunes into a shimmering sea of amber. Nalia paused at the lip of a shallow wash, where the wind had sculpted the sand into rippling ridges. Ahead stood their final waypoint, an ancient baobab, its massive trunk swollen like a water jug, and its roots twisting into the earth like the tentacles of some primeval creature. This baobab was legend, a living cistern that stored precious groundwater in its bulging trunk. Nalia's own mother had revealed its secret decades ago, teaching her that the tree's hollow core and root network concealed veins of moisture that never dried, even in the fiercest drought. As the herd gathered beneath its mottled bark, Nalia raised her trunk and trumpet-soft whispered, summoning the family's collective patience. Using her tusks, Nalia scraped away the parched sand packed at the base of the baobab's exposed roots. Slowly, a thin trickle of water oozed from a hidden fissure, a vein deep within the tree's inner reservoir. Calves huddled close, their small trunks probing the damp mud. Mothers parted the sand with powerful sweeps of their feet, widening the opening until a steady stream gushed forth. The water was cool, sweet with the tree's stored rain, and every elephant drank with fervor, their eyes half closed in blissful relief. While the herd drank, Nalia inspected the baobab's root network. She probed each crevice, listening for the faint echo of flowing water beneath her footpads. Finding a secondary vein, she signaled Duma, the herd's chief bull, to strengthen the root chamber with stone and brush, creating another catch basin to ensure no drop was lost. Duma rumbled his ascent, lifting slabs of desert sandstone into place with powerful pushes of his forehead, while younger bulls packed branches into cracks to funnel water toward the main pool. Above, the baobab's broad canopy offered shade from the fierce sun, and a breeze stirred its sparse leaves in a rustling lullaby. As the herd rested, bellies full of salt and bodies quenched by hidden springs, Nalia gazed out across the drought-scarred plains. She knew this life-saving haven would soon be covered by shifting dunes once the wind rose. But in the moment's precious grace, her family found sanctuary. a testament to her memory and the desert's secret generosity. When at last the herd had drunk their fill and bathed their tired limbs, Nalia trumpeted a long, sonorous farewell. The elephants rose as one, their footprints rippling through the sand as they turned toward the distant horizon, forever bound by the matriarch's secret salt lick map and the hidden veins of water that pulsed beneath the ancient baobab's mighty roots. Noontime heat shimmered across the dunes as the herd pressed onward, desert wind whispering threats of a brewing sandstorm. Nalia sensed the change in air pressure, ears twitching, and halted the procession atop a sweeping dune. Behind her, calves huddled close to their mothers, trunks entwined for reassurance, while young bulls flared their ears against the coming gale. Moments later, the sky darkened as swirling columns of sand roared across the plains. Sand whipped like fine needles, stinging skin and forcing the herd into a tight circle. Nalia dropped her massive head, using her broad tusks to dig a shallow trench that provided shelter against the storm's full fury. Other elephants crowded in, pressing flank to flank, forming a living wall. Calves tucked behind protectively, their small bodies trembling but shielded by the adults' great frames. Through the whirling sands, a fleeting illusion appeared on the horizon, a shimmering ribbon of blue that teased the eyes with the promise of water. Even seasoned adults gasped, tempted to break formation and dash toward the mirage. Nalia trumpeted sharply, reminding the herd of her unerring wisdom. She would not risk their safety on a phantom. Instead, she waited for the storm's peak to pass, trusting her map etched in memory over uncertain visions. Hours later, when the wind finally abated and the dunes settled into undulating hush, Nalia led the herd down an easterly course, one she had known from childhood tales of a hidden oasis beyond the storm's reach. As dusk approached, a grove of palms rose against the purple sky, and beneath them, a crystal pool glowed in the twilight. Trunks swung toward the oasis with renewed vigor, and the herd surged forward, triumphant at having weathered the storm through unity and the matriarch's steadfast guidance. As the herd descended toward the palm-shaded hollow, the last glow of dusk turned the sky into a canvas of molten orange and violet. Below, nestled between graceful date palms and feathery doom palms, lay the twilight oasis, a shimmering pool fed by hidden artesian springs that bubbled up from deep beneath the sands. Their waters lay still and glassy, reflecting the first stars of evening like scattered diamonds. Nalia led the way to the water's edge, ears flicking in contented relief as the herd pressed forward. Calves raced ahead, their stubby legs carrying them into the cool shallows, where they splashed and trumpeted with giddy delight. Mothers followed more sedately, dipping their trunks into the pool to draw up sweet mineral-rich water. Each sip released a sigh of satisfaction, thick, refreshing relief after days spent in scorching heat and parching winds. Beyond the main pool, an enclave of lush vegetation had flourished. Reeds bent in gentle arcs, papyrus sprouted in dense clusters, and wild date clusters dripped from low-hanging branches. The elephants foraged with slow, joyous precision, tearing down soft palm fronds, peeling bark from younger shoots, and plucking succulent fruit from thorny shrubs. Calves nibbled at tender grasses sprouting along the oasis's muddy margins, their bellies growing round with nourishment. Marsh birds, long absent from the desert, returned at dusk to roost among the reeds, herons and egrets preening in the fading light. Nali observed a pair of flamingos dipping into the shallows, stirring colorful reflections across the pool's surface. Beyond the water's rim, small rodents scurried in the underbrush, venturing out to sip and nibble without fear, trusting the elephant's protective presence. As night deepened and the first cool breezes swept down from distant highlands, the herd gathered in a semicircle around the water. Nalia trumpeted a low, harmonious call, a matriarch's blessing of the oasis. In response, every elephant raised its trunk in salute, the sound washing across the still water like a living hymn of gratitude. Beneath the sheltering palms, they found refuge, a momentary reprieve from the desert's trials and a testament to Nalia's unwavering leadership. That night, under a tapestry of stars, undimmed by dust or haze, the elephants bedded down in soft sand and dew-kissed grass. Calves curled against their mothers' bellies, lulled by the gentle chorus of spring frogs and the distant call of night birds. Nalia stood sentinel at the pool's edge, her eyes reflecting the starlight and the tranquil surface below. She knew that soon the herd would journey on, guided by her salt lick map. But for this precious night, they had found sanctuary, a promise that in the heart of the desert, life's oasis awaited those who dared to follow the path of memory and courage. With dawn's first blush painting the oasis in soft rose and gold, Nalia gathered her herd for the final leg of their journey. Calves shook the night's dew from their ears, and young bulls trumpeted in greeting as the rising sun kindled every water droplet like a jewel. The herd's bellies were full, their thirst quenched, and their spirits buoyed by the oasis's gifts. Nalia raised her trunk, inhaling the crisp morning air, scented by blooming desert lilies and moist earth. Today, they would set out once more across the dunes, back toward the ancestral salt licks and hidden springs that sustained countless generations before them. But she would not merely retrace her footsteps, she would leave a deeper legacy. Beside the twilight oasis's western bank, Nalia knelt and used her tusk to carve a shallow groove in the sun-warmed sand. A map of her salt lick route encoded in footprints, aligned stones, and broken palm fronds. Each mark represented a waypoint: the crystalline salt bed, the petrified driftwood, the baobab's secret vein, and this lush sanctuary. Calves watched intently as mothers pressed soft footprints into the trough, ensuring the path would remain visible even as winds tried to erase it. When her task was done, Nalia trumpeted a vibrant call that echoed across the oasis. One by one, each elephant placed its trunk in the carved groove, imprinting fresh heel prints that solidified the map. Finley pressed her narrow heel beside Nalia's signature mark. Maris and the twins added their own symbols by scattering palm kernels into the lines. Elders nodded in approval, recognizing the brilliance of preserving knowledge in living memory rather than in fleeting scent alone. With the map etched in the sand and in the minds of her kin, Nalia led the herd away from the oasis, each step retracing the way they had come, but propelling them toward home. As they crossed the dunes, the carved trail wavered behind them, safe in the minds of every elephant who had walked its length. Calves learned to pause at each landmark, their eyes bright with understanding, ears tuned to the matriarch's stories of survival and guidance. When the herd finally returned to their native plains, salt-lick crystals glinting in the midday sun, baobab roots still whispering underground currents, they moved with confident purpose rather than desperate search. Nalia watched her family scattered to drink, forage, and rest, knowing that her map would guide not only them, but generations to follow. In the gathering heat of the afternoon, Nalia raised her trunk in farewell salute to the sun. Beyond the horizon lay many more journeys, across shifting sands, through wind-scoured ridges and past hidden springs, but her herd would never wander thirsty again. For the strength of memory, the art of mapping in footprints and symbols, and the courage to lead had woven a living path through the desert, a legacy as enduring as the ancient dunes themselves.